First question's from Kirsten Watson. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Mark. Hope you're well. How has the first few days of spring training been, and has there been anyone in specific that has stood out to you?
First few days have been good. It's pretty much as usual. Like normal first couple of days of spring training, it's just a lot of bullpens, obviously like protocols and stuff. But overall, it's been good. I think guys have come into camp in good shape. And I think we have liked everything that we've seen, and pretty much guys have been throwing the ball as advertised, specifically talking about, say, guys new to the organization. You see video and you hear scouts from reports and stuff like that, but it was nice to kind of see them in person. Guys that have stood out have been some of these new acquisitions, the Vesia, Clevenger. It was nice to see Brandon Morrow throw the ball free and easy. I know he's had a rough couple of years, so it was good to see him. I think all our usual guys that we had all last year don't look like they pretty much skipped a beat. They've all come in looking, obviously not like they were in the World Series and in the playoffs, but what we expect them and how we expect them to throw. And honestly, what we asked them to do in the offseason, you can tell that they're continuing to work on some of those things, whether it's strike breaking balls or command fastballs at different sides of the plate. So it's been a good couple of days of camp, and excited to see the next round of bullpens, because after those first pens, it's a lot of, guys are excited to be here. There's a little bit of adrenaline, and then this one's a little bit, things kind of come down a little bit. And so you kind of see a little bit more of, where they're at and what they can do before they start facing hitters.
Thank you.
Next question is from Dave Assay. Go ahead.
Happy Sunday, Mark.
Happy Sunday.
I was wondering, there's been a lot of talk about Trevor and we all know how data-driven he is. I'm just curious, your initial talks with Trevor, is he open to what you guys do? Do you feel like he'll be open-minded with what the Dodgers do as much as he is with his own beliefs in pitching?
I think so, and I think he's communicated this and he's expressed this publicly. I mean, I think he's looking for, a place where he can collaborate and throw ideas off. And, we listen to him, he listens to us. And as we kind of get into spring training, we get through these first initial days and we have a little bit more time to, sit there and get a little bit more, personal on what he's looking for and how we do things, whether it's from a game planning standpoint, whether it's a post-game kind of evaluation reports. I think he's open to hearing, what we do and how we do things. And on the flip side is like, we want to know what he does. He's obviously spent a lot of time and effort to understand who he is and what makes him the best version of himself. And we'd love to know, kind of what he looks for and some of the data points that he likes to, lock in on, because I'm sure that's going to have some carryover to some of our other guys. And so I think, there's been some initial conversations, just kind of like the things that he likes to track during bullpens and stuff like that. And as we kind of get going through the days, I think we're going to have some more protracted conversations and kind of diving in on what he needs and what he needs from us so that we can support what he wants to do on the field.
It seemed last year he had an elite season and not much adversity. Are you curious to see how he reacts to whatever adversity the season may have in store for him, and just the maturity that he's grown from where he was in Cleveland, throwing the ball over the center field wall when he's being taken out of a game?
Yeah, he's been around for a long time. He's not, he was not like a guy that nobody knew about. He was a first round pick and always has had the talent. And some of it's just, with anybody in any walk of life, it's just, growing, maturing, life experiences. I'm not worried about the adversity with him. Obviously last year he dealt in a shortened season, and, to expect him to pitch at that high level, for 30, 35 starts is, everybody goes, even the Cy Young winners in a normal season, and go out and have a couple bad games. And so he's going to deal with adversity, in his own way, and I don't expect it to be an issue. And, again, we're excited to see what he can do and what he's going to help us do and support our goal of trying to go back to the World Series and win a championship. So I'm just excited for us all to kind of get going. I'm excited for our pitching staff. I mean, it's got a lot of depth, and with depth comes competition. And I'm excited to see, what that friendly competition, what comes out on the back end in October.
Thank you.
Next question's from Jorge Castillo. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Mark? Just on the Trevor, just continuing with him. He's had two obviously elite seasons, and the other ones weren't as good. I'm just wondering if you've been able to dig in at all. It might be too early for this question, but what does he need to do to sort of have that kind of season, the 18 or last year, as opposed to the other ones where he wasn't as successful?
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't dug into the season by season stuff completely yet. And, again, I think a lot of times it's just to be able to be consistent, and it's learning yourself on how to manage, the workflow and the volume through the course of a season. I think that's first. Sometimes, guys can come out hot out of the gate, and then, they just kind of start puddling out mid-season, and the stuff's just not as crisp. I think his ability to command the ball and command all his pitches has gotten improved dramatically. As some of the things that he's talked about with some other people in the organization, some of the strides he's made in that, which has allowed him to maybe have the season that he did last year. As well as, again, this is well documented on his end, as much as everybody knows, is he's always looking, how can I get better? I mean, that's something that he's expressed in some of our initial conversations way back in the fall, when his free agency process started. He wants not to just do what he's been doing, or even last year. He always wants to be thinking forward, and what do I need to do to stay ahead of the game? And so, I think all those things are good attributes. Again, I think going out and having, he doesn't have to lift every weight for us. We got obviously Walker, we got Clayton, we got Julio, we got Dustin, we got David. We got a lot of guys, and so I think our depth is only going to hopefully help him to manage him through the course of the season, as well as, again, he's not going to leave any stone unturned, and so we're going to be here to support him as best we can. And if we identify something, he wants to be told, and he's expressed that 100%, that, if you got something, bring it to me. I want to hear it.
And with Kenley, we saw last season, there were times, he would throw 95 with movement or whatever. Have you guys tried to dig in and try to figure something out where you can make that more consistent? Have you guys maybe figured out a way in which that could happen, or possibly could happen, where he's more consistent, with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been, something that we've been trying to dive into probably for a better part of a year and a half, 2 years, is sometimes the wide range and velocity. Sometimes he comes out, he's 89, 90, and other times he comes out, he's 94, 95. And really, we've tried our best to try to figure that out. We've made some adjustments in his off-season training, and hopefully maybe that would have some impact on it this year. Those are things that he was on board with. And honestly, we've made some adjustments, just a little tweaks in here and there on his process coming into the season. So, it's something that we're aware of. It's something that we've been trying to unlock. I'll be honest with you, we haven't had success with it in the last year and a half. So we've kind of changed course a little bit and tried some things differently this offseason. And, we'll see how it plays out. He's been moving great. He's been looking a lot more athletic with his throw. And we're hoping that continues, and that plays and shows some dividends once we get into games.
Can you specify those changes?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's just been some of the workouts, changing it to be a little bit more, more athletic, maybe less bulk, less, how do I say, mass strength, just trying to get a little bit of stuff that's been a little bit more ballistic, allow him his body to move a little bit freer. And so, again, those were by design. With Kenley and Brandon McDaniel, our performance coach, those things have, had conversations back in October, November. Even in the playoffs, those are things that, we were talking about, and they were talking about of just slightly tweaking things. And again, like, he's getting older, so there's always a constant tweaking, but this was a little bit more of a focus of like, all right, let's maybe like bring down the actual amount of weight we're pushing around and see if we can make it more about how the body's moving and try to clean some of those things up. And to Kenley's credit, like he was on board and he loved it. And like I said, he's been moving great. It's exciting to watch him throw, long toss with Trevor. I think Trevor challenges him in the long toss. Not necessarily like, communicating challenge, but, just Trevor loves to throw a long toss. I think Kenley loves to throw a long toss. So I think that's been a good throwing partner here in this first few days. And again, he's moving well. His first bullpen, like things are, been moving well. But again, it's, we'll see what happens when batters are in there. And Kenley knows where he's at. He knows what he needs to do. He's our closer. And, he's been around here a long time. And so he knows what he needs to do to help his team win ball games. And that's his focus.
And Dave mentioned that Julio's been in, he's in really good shape, the best he's seen him at the beginning of his spring training. Do you anticipate Julio kind of being unleashed here, maybe more so than even last year?
Sorry, I missed that. Do we anticipate what now?
Do you anticipate Julio being unleashed a little more,
Unleashed.
maybe going deeper into games and stuff?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, this is where we get into this fine line of, what his target or projected workload was going to be for the 2020 season. Obviously, with a smaller season or shorter season, he didn't get to that target last year. So we're going to, have to play around with that. Yeah, but when it comes to like specific games and if Julio's cruising we'd love for him to go deep. We'd love him to try to get through the middle of the third time through the lineup, when things are clicking. But I think it was well documented early on last year. He struggled sometimes. That first inning was a struggle for him. He knows it. He made some great adjustments. Working with Travis Smith, our strength coach, in the weight room on a day-to-day stuff to try to work on some of the things that he needed for his delivery. And to his credit, he was religious about that day-to-day. And I think those things didn't show up necessarily until the playoffs. And because it was such a, it was just things that take time, to kind of get embedded in your body and how it moves and in the delivery. But I think if he's going out and he's pitching well, like I don't see why we wouldn't turn him loose maybe on a specific game. We're still going to have to watch, where he's at from a workload standpoint because of, when you go back and you look at kind of the timeline, when he came up, the injury, when he came back in 18, what he did in 19, there's a lot of fragmented workloads that, we have to account for. We can't just turn him loose and say, here, try to go out and make 30 starts in 200 innings. Like, I think that would be reckless in some respects. But for him to go out and be able to go deep into a game, I think everybody's all for that. And Julio knows that. He's come in camp. His first bullpen, he looks really good. Like, his command on all his pitches was better than I thought I was expecting, to be perfectly honest. So he knows where he's at. And that was the challenge going into 2020 is like, show who you are and what you can, because he was going to get unleashed more so last year. And I think we expect him to be unleashed to a point this year for sure.
And so the first inning struggles, that wasn't like just a coincidence then. You guys saw sort of a pattern, something underneath there that, there was a problem that he needed to fix.
Yeah, I mean, we were aware of it. He was aware of it, and honestly, some of those first inning struggles, Seattle, I think that was, probably the biggest one. I want to say maybe that there was an Arizona game in there. There was the struggles were known, and then he would settle in, but unfortunately, the pitch count got up, and then then he's struggling to get through 4, maybe even into the 5th sometimes, and that frustrated him, and it just Julio wants to compete, and I think everybody sees that now on the world stage on what he can do and how he competes, and he doesn't back down from anything, and so that frustrated him a lot. And again, he spent a lot of time through the months of August, kind of revamped some of his pitches a little bit, and then made the decision, just to go stretch only. And I think, whether that is a positive correlation or not, once he kind of did that, then things started, settling down, and you could see he was much more efficient early on and got into the flow of the game, which allowed him to do what, he was able to do. So there's a lot of different things that went through and some changes, some adjustments that he made last year in a short amount of time, and now I'm excited to see with the off season where he's come in shape wise, strength wise, to see how that plays out into a full season.
Thank you.
Next question from Juan Toribio. Go ahead.
Hey Mark, how do you see you guys kind of managing the jump from 60 games to 162? And is it going to take a little bit more honesty from the guys, kind of based on how they feel?
Yeah, honesty is always good. But I mean, if you've been around the guys in our starting rotation, they don't usually like to give you the honest, like, I'm done. They want to pitch. So, that'll be some finesse. But, I'm still wrapping my head around it. I know it's a hot topic, 60 to 162, and there's some apprehension, there's some fear, like, what are we doing? And I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, what does this actually mean? Because when you're talking about guys who've been around for a long time, like, guys have thrown 200 innings in 1 year, they might tweak a hamstring and they might only pitch, 60, 70 innings, but then the next year they can go back out. So, is that a benchmark that we can use? I don't know yet. I mean, it's ongoing discussion. It's been an ongoing discussion for a couple months. But like I alluded to with Julio, I mean, the Julio discussion, potentially is, where's he at coming all the way from 17 and his workload and how that's built up. I mean, that's still a factor more so than just the 60 games. The Tonys and Dustins, they're still young and they're still on some of that projection. I worry, about some of our younger guys. And that's where we're going to have to truly monitor is, guys that potentially are going to help this ball club this year that might have been pitching just at the alternative site last year, and their inning workloads and where they're at from a 6-month standpoint, not necessarily even just the innings and the workload and the pitches as much as the time, that they're going to be asked to be here from February and expected to be there in October. So all those things are going to be factors, but it's something that's being talked about and it's kind of an ongoing working discussion. And to say that we have the answer is, I think is foolish. I don't think anybody truly has the answer, and we're just going to have to, be honest with each other and make some calls, whether they're right or wrong, and we probably won't know that until the end of the year.
And what do you think of these spring training rules of 5 innings and 7 innings? Do you think that'd be helpful at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that. I'm biased. I'm a pitching coach, so when it comes to scheduling, but usually, we have guys on the minor league side that we can pull, and we pull a lot of those guys in that first 7 to 10 days. And because of our restrictions with numbers, we don't have that luxury. So that the shorter games makes this a little bit easier and not forcing guys to go out. Because with a lot of guys, we want them to throw maybe 2 BPs, maybe 3 BPs. Some of the older guys that we know are on our team. Don't need to rush them in there on March 1st or, the 28th. In personal opinion, I hope it's a change when we get back to some normalcy. I hope it's a change that maybe we talk about going forward, as maybe that first 7-10 games are 7-inning games. Just because then we're not putting in guys, backups from the minor leagues and counting on them always. So I think there's some positives that might come out of this, but the 5 to 7 inning games, I think is going to be a nice feature. And I think being able to roll innings is something that I know is very uncommon here, but it's done a lot on the minor league side. I think that's going to help out, especially with starters and trying to get their ups in.
And one guy you mentioned was Vesia. Dave mentioned him the other day. What is it about him that it seems like he's standing out so far?
Well, I just think that, one, left-handed. We always love left-handers. But I just think that, his fastball is unique. And I think we have a potential to use that, in matchups. I think he needs, we'll do a better job of we'll do what we can to educate him on what he can do with the fastball, what he can do with his other pitches, to really capitalize on his arsenal. It just came out. It was coming out free and easy. The ball jumps on guys. So I think that was, just kind of, eye-opening, like, wow, okay, this is coming out really well. And same with Clevenger. A lot of guys, Pezo's, like, these are all guys that, we're losing. We lost Jake McGee, and unfortunately we lost Ferg for the year. And so that's a weapon that we like to have in our bullpen. And, with those 2 guys gone this year specifically, we're looking maybe for somebody to take that type of role for us this year.
Thanks, Mark.
Next question from JP Hornster. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark, what's the best case against a 6-man rotation?
Best case against it would probably be one of those guys coming in and complaining about being on a 6-man rotation. I don't know if there's a case against it other than maybe, our initial schedule. I haven't looked much past like our April schedule or even the first couple of weeks in April. It's just because we have those off days right after that Oakland series. We have those 2 off days in 4 days. It might get a little wonky in there, as far as rest, where you almost get to the point where it's too much rest. And so you're skipping guys. So on my first hot take would be one situation that we'd have to run into. I think when we get into those long stretches of games, if we're playing 12, 15, 18 games in a row, I think there's an argument to drop in somebody in there for a 6-man just to give guys some breaks. And I think that will help. I know you asked me the arguments against it, but I do think there's some value to it. And just, as we talk about the 60 to 162 and more so the 6 months, 7 months, and having guys as strong as they can towards the end of the season. So I think that would be some of the argument for it. I run into the debate myself on a 6-man is, we got guys that are creatures of habits, and when, they're fine going on regular rest and 1 extra day's rest, but when we start adding like a second day, they just don't feel as crisp. They don't feel as confident going out there. And so that would maybe be my first, my argument against that. But I value 6-man rotations a lot of times when we get guys, when you have a younger staff, and maybe you don't get 4 or 5 innings out of these guys consistently, or excuse me, you're consistently getting 4 or 5 innings out of these guys. So maybe there's more value in the 6-man there. But, I think it's fair to say that, we expect Walker and Trevor and Clayton to be getting a 6-7 innings on the times that they come out. So, from a workload standpoint, I'm not too worried about that.
And then, regardless of how many men are in the rotation, I imagine just having to divide up so many more innings, you'll just need more pitchers this year. Do you anticipate really utilizing that 40-man roster and shuffling a lot of guys back and forth between AAA more than usual this year?
Each year is unique and different. I would just given my 3rd year here, like we've utilized our 40-man a fair amount, and I would expect that not change this year. Depth is always needed. And I know it's an old saying, but you never have enough pitching. I mean, we'll be challenged. We just don't know how we're going to be challenged this year. It's probably fair to say that at some point somebody's going to get hurt. Maybe multiple guys get hurt, hopefully not significant, but that's unfortunately a thing that happens a given every year. Probably gonna, we were very, very fortunate when it came to COVID last year. Until the JT incident, we didn't have really anything. So to expect that we're going to have that type of success this year, we definitely want to, and obviously we're trying to be respectful of everything, but to say that somebody's not going to test positive or somebody's not going to fall into the contact tracing protocols is probably it's probably naive to think that we're not going to have something happen. And so our depth will be tested. We will use our 40-mans for a variety of reasons. So I expect that not to change this year that much.
Thank you.
We got time for one more. Go ahead, Claudia.
Mark, excuse me if somebody asks you this. What do you expect to see with Brandon Morrow? How is he looking in the spring?
Yeah, the BMOs look great. First bullpen here. He's thrown probably. I think we've talked. I think he was 9 or 10th bullpen. But it looked really good coming out. The other day, and excited to see him again. I think he's tomorrow. It's coming out really good, free and easy. He's got a very simple delivery, but when he's feeling good, the ball comes out, and I think that's what we saw. And I think, as far as expectations this year, I think one is getting him healthy. He's had a long couple years since he left here, or I guess 3 years since he left here after the 17 season. And so if we can get him healthy, consistently pitching, I think what we expect is kind of hopefully the guy that was here for everybody in 17. Back end guy who can match up against right and lefts, has the ability to get strikeouts, swings and misses, kind of do what we need, him to do. I think that's the expectation, but I think first we just have to get him out on the field, get him healthy, get him in a good routine, get him into games, but not, challenging his workload too much with back-to-backs right out of the chute, stuff like that. And then I think there's, the long game is having him ready for us for the last push of the season, and then obviously into the playoffs.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody.